JBN, we keep you informed. Coming up in the news today, shooting at Wake leaves 1 dead, 1 injured. Fatal crash in St. James. East Portland Christmas Day. SLB projected to disburse $5.2 billion in loans this year. Bus conductor convicted for stabbing rival to death in dispute over passengers. Gun found in crate shipped from the US. Foreign national, one of 2 persons held. 35 road deaths last month, and that's the lowest monthly figure this year. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, leave us a comment, and click the notification bell to receive our daily news items. Shooting at Wake leaves 1 dead, 1 injured. 2 men were shot, 1 fatally in Yallah's St. Thomas yesterday morning. The dead man has been identified as 24-year-old Firearm Bailey, a barber of Knightsville community in Yallah's. It's reported that about 4:30 a.m. the men were at a wake in their community when an argument developed among them and another man. According to the police, he left the location and returned later with 2 other men who were armed with guns. The men reportedly opened fire, hitting Bailey several times and another man in his right leg before fleeing the scene. The injured men were taken to the hospital where Bailey was pronounced dead. The police say a 9mm pistol was found at the location of the wake. Fatal crash in St. James. 61-year-old Clinton Stevenson of Bogue Hill, St. James, died from injuries he sustained in a motor vehicle collision on the Fairfield Main Road in the parish on Thursday morning. The Montego Bay Police report that about 5:30 a.m., Stevenson was driving his motorcycle when he collided with a Toyota Corolla motor car. The police were summoned and he was taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. East Portland Christmas Day. A Jamaica Labour Party JLP supporter declared yesterday East Portland Christmas Day. Because East Portland needed a change, I would say we were going to get a change, said the man, who only identified himself as Dookie. The taxi operator was among a handful of JLP supporters in the community of Prospect, still reveling in their party's historic victory in Thursday's by-election. The JLP's Anne-Marie Vaz defeated the People's National Party Damien Crawford, ending the party's 30-year control of the constituency. Several meters away, a small group of PNP supporters was still in shock. For some, it was the first time they were experiencing an electoral defeat for their party. Cherise Rooms, a die-hard PNP supporter, was hoarse from campaigning for the party's candidate. This shocked me. Me I work for the PNP them from before me have my vote. Me have 51 years old now, I got 52 and me never see Labour right winner, so, Rooms said. Rooms blamed the defeat on alleged vote buying. And that bad I mean because I thief the election, she charged. But the JLP supporters said the PNP lost because of their arrogance and the lack of infrastructure development in the constituency. You see, because them say I saw a stronghold and a dead PNP seat, them no care about we, said one woman. SLB projected to disburse $5.2 billion in loans this year. Approximately $5.2 billion in Student Loans Bureau tertiary education funding support is projected for disbursement to eligible applicants this year. According to the 2020 Jamaica Public Bodies estimates of revenue and expenditure, the figure is $251 million more than the sum for the Student Revolving Loan Fund during the 2018-2019 fiscal year. The document indicates that sources for this year's funding include government provisions through the Special Education Tax and Granting Aid, with the latter projected to be approximately $150 million. Other revenue streams and their projected inflows include loan interest and penalties, $3.29 billion, bad debt recovery, $318 million, interest on investment, $136 million, application and processing fees, $48 million, and miscellaneous income, $13 million. Meanwhile, the SLB is slated to continue implementing several initiatives this year, which are aimed at achieving and maintaining operational efficiency, viability, and enhance public perception and awareness. In a bid to improve public awareness, the SLB will be targeting high school students, preparing for tertiary education so as to sensitize them about the funding options available for various programs of study. The SLB projects the net operational surplus of approximately $1.19 billion for 2019-2020 and an increase in the staff complement by 3 to 108 over the course of the year. Bus conductor convicted for stabbing rival to death in dispute over passengers. A bus conductor who stabbed a rival to death in a New Year's Eve dispute over passengers has been convicted of murder. Roland Banstroff was found guilty in the Home Circuit Court earlier this week for stabbing bus conductor Kenroy Smith 3 times, twice in the chest, at the Darling Street bus terminus on December 31, 2014. A jury deliberated for 2 hours before returning a unanimous verdict in his murder trial. He is scheduled to be sentenced on May 3 by Justice Vivian Harris. Both Banstroff and Smith worked on buses that operate between Kingston and Ochariah in St. Anne. Prosecutors Andrea Martin Swaby and Rashid Spence relied on the testimony of an off-duty police sergeant who was a passenger on Smith's bus to prove their case. The sergeant testified that Smith refused to allow the bus to leave the terminus, insisting that he would not do so until there were passengers filling up the aisle seats. He said he and other passengers exited the bus because of the delay and boarded Banstroff's bus, setting off an argument between the 2 conductors. The policeman said the argument escalated into a tussle between the 2 men, causing him to separate them. He testified that he reprimanded Banstroff and instructed him to board his bus and depart for Ochariah. The off-duty sergeant gave notice that Banstroff walk away in the direction of his bus, but said within a minute there was a loud commotion in the direction of the area where the other passengers had taken Smith. He said he saw the 2 conductors again tussling, and on his approach, Smith released his hand on Banstroff and raised his hands in the air. The police sergeant said it was at this point that Banstroff stabbed Smith twice in the region of the chest. He was pronounced dead at hospital. Gun found in crate shipped from the U.S. Foreign national, one of 2 persons held. 2 men, including a foreign national, are in custody following the seizure of a firearm in a crate that was shipped from an address in the United States, the police have revealed. Their names have not been released. The Police Corporate Communications Unit, CCU, says the crate was seized along Industrial Terrace in West Kingston on Wednesday during a joint operation between the Counter-Terrorism and Organized Crime Division and the Jamaica Customs Agency's Contraband Enforcement Team. The police say the men are scheduled to be formally interviewed in the presence of their attorneys before criminal charges are filed against them. 35 road deaths last month, and that's the lowest monthly figure this year. 35 persons were killed in motor vehicle crashes island-wide last month, and that was the lowest of the 3 months gone into the year. Figures from the Road Safety Unit in the Transport Ministry have revealed. Motor vehicle crashes claimed 37 lives in February and 36 in January, the figures revealed. Up to yesterday, the Road Safety Unit says 4 persons have died on the nation's roadways this month, pushing the total since the start of the year to 112. 85 persons died in motor vehicle crashes over the corresponding period last year. Van Roy Dunbar, a 66-year-old laborer who resided in Orange Bay, Portland, became the latest victim after he was hit from his bicycle by a motor car along the Spring Gardens main road in the parish. The Buff Bay police report that he fell into a ditch and sustained several injuries. The driver of the motor car reportedly summoned the police, and Dunbar was taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. The driver of the car was warned for prosecution. Sentencing postponed for cops in Kirkland case. Relatives and colleagues of the 3 police constables found guilty of manslaughter in relation to the 2012 shooting death of 16-year-old schoolgirl Vanessa Kirkland on Friday turned out in their numbers to offer support, but they were left further dejected after the sentencing was pushed back to May 17. The rescheduling follows the revelation by attorney-at-law Oswest Senior Smith that the social inquiry report for his client, Anna K. Bailey, had not been prepared. He also revealed that similar reports for Andre Wayne Smith and Dervin Ailes, represented by attorneys-at-law Peter Champagne and Nadine Guy, respectively, were also not done. Constables Smith, Ailes, and Bailey were on February 8 found guilty of manslaughter of Kirkland, then a student at the Immaculate Conception High School in St. Andrew, who was shot and killed along Norman Lane in Kingston. The verdict was handed down by a 7-member jury. Senior Smith said that the court could be assisted in a material way in the form of the social inquiry report for the 3 convicted. During the trial, prosecutors suggested that the police constables drove onto the road and opened fire on the vehicle without being fired upon. However, The cops maintained that they acted in self-defense, claiming to have been fired upon first by men who alighted from the vehicle. The normal range of sentencing for those found guilty of manslaughter is 3 to 15 years, with a usual starting period of 7 years. JBN, we keep you informed. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, leave us a comment, and click the notification bell to receive our daily news items.